and welcome to this edition of Own the Journey. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Dan Reiter from the St. Louis Cardinals. He's the general manager here in Springfield, and we look forward to hearing from you and sharing your wisdom with our audience. I know it's going to be awesome because the stories that you've already started to share with me, it's going to be a lot of fun to hear about it. So today we're in Ozark, Missouri, and we are in a speakeasy in the basement of the Finley, which is absolutely fantastic. So we're excited about it. So Dan, for those that don't know you, tell us just a little bit about your history. How did you end up with the Cardinals?
Luck, and I'll take it because I love my job. But I grew up a Cardinals fan. My dad's family is from south of St. Louis. Yeah. We moved to Springfield when I was in 8th grade, went to high school at Springfield Catholic, school at Mizzou. And then I got a marketing degree, which I never really knew what I wanted to do, which I think usually people that major in marketing and communications were kind of lost souls, but we're really good at parties. So I got a marketing degree without knowing what I wanted to do, and I was doing odds and ends jobs for my mom, who was a property manager, and my dad that was a realtor. And one day I stayed home and I saw a TV contest to be president of the Cardinals for a day. So I actually did it. I had a friend record it on VHS, so that kind of dates it, VHS, right?
Yeah.
But they recorded it, sent it into Fox Sports, and they picked me. Wow. It was amazing to be around Busch Stadium, to do all of this random stuff that you see without realizing it really happens. And I fell in love. I had some other job interviews. I canceled them. And then when I met the president of the St. Louis Cardinals, I asked him, hey, are you going to move a team to Springfield? And he goes, young man, it's a bold question. I'm like, it is. Are you going to move a team there or not? In hindsight, that was horrible. I was 23, and that was a really bad question to ask on camera. But at the end of the contest, he said they were going to hire some people in Springfield and to send in my resume. Wow. And so for me, it was a dream. They interviewed 300 people to hire 5 sales spots. Wow. I was not one of the first 5, but because I'd made such a strong impression, they went ahead and threw in one more hire. So I was the throw-in hire of year 1 of the Springfield Cardinals. Wow. And I've been there ever since.
Congratulations on that. So when you were going through the process of sales and learning what that is in their organization, how did that turn into the general manager position? That's quite a journey.
Yeah, I was just excited for the job. I mean, to be honest, I was a die-hard Cardinals fan. I loved baseball. I never thought of being in sales, but I just loved baseball. And so I just had a passion to talk about the Cardinals and a passion to talk about why it's great family time. And I think I believed in what I did. And it kind of slowly turned into like it's a job to maybe it's a career to I joke and say I'm just a team historian, so they can't get rid of me. But along the way, I've had other job opportunities, but I know what I love. And as long as I can do it and it works, I feel that I'm pretty blessed to be able to be invigorated to go to the same job for 18 years.
That's pretty awesome. I love it. And it goes back to, all the recommendations and the wisdom that people share is like, do what you love. Yeah. Because then it's not going to work every day. It becomes natural and something that becomes part of who you are. So that's outstanding. When you moved into the general manager role, only the second general manager in the Springfield area, whole new dynamic. So going from sales to leading people, managing people, there's a lot of shift work, and I know that you're a big culture guy. So talk to us a little bit about how that dynamic transformed who you are and how you had to be as a leader.
Yeah, and along the way, I'd always grown with my management. I love people. I mean, that's people, they ask, what's your favorite part of the job? It's people. Yeah. I love the people I work with. I love the fans. I love the opportunity to get out and meet people. I genuinely love it. So I've always had a passion for leading and managing, even before I had a job even. Like you go back to what I did in high school, college, I love people. But I'll also say what I learned very quickly was that you think you're prepared, you think you're promoted, but no one can really understand the hot seat until you're on the hot seat. Yeah. And that first year, I described it was drinking from a fire hydrant. You have feelings that you're drowning. And I can remember hitting 1 year and feeling like I could grasp for air. Yeah. But I think a part of that's just that I wanted to make sure I succeeded. And I think there's about a 2-week window before they announced I was the GM that it was a secret. And it was very nostalgic, and it was, thinking of how I got there, the people that have helped me. And right away it goes into how you want to leave your mark. And I'll definitely give my predecessor, Matt Gifford, he did something great. He left a Post-it note that said challenge everything. And I think that's a great leadership thing, is to not think that you know it all, but when someone takes over for you, encourage them to make their own way, challenge it. If you think you can do it better, do it better. Don't be held back to think you have to follow the similar path. I think it was the perfect thing for me to read, because I'm definitely someone who likes to change the status quo. Yeah. I like to, maintaining to me is boring. I want to maximize. One of the things I say, it's, we talk internally about this a lot, but we want to maximize everything that we can do. Like, maximize the controllables. Don't control your controllables, it's boring. Maximize your controllables. And I think that's kind of the way we got started, was that we wanted to take some strategic risk. We wanted to improve. And the way that we can do that is through people. And I think that's where the culture came in. We've worked very hard in my time there to change it, to improve it. We wanted to take it where entry-level positions were there 1 to 2 years to be 3 and 4. And I think it's changed the standard for who we hire. It's changed the standard for our expectations of them. In a lot of ways, it's changed the self-management between each other, is that people hold each other accountable, because we want that positive culture.
I love that. And one of the things we focus on, and it sounds like it's exactly what you guys are doing, that if you create that side-to-side accountability, then the managers don't have to be involved, and that's better for everybody.
It is. And I think sometimes people think managers want to go out picking fights. They want to go out and get people in trouble. The answer is no. Like, no. The ideal world is that you don't even need me. I mean, the ideal world is that all of you want to do it. You expect things from each other. And honestly, it makes a great thing. And in a lot of ways, it's like when we have to step in, it's bad for everybody. Like, I want everyone to do their own thing and be happy with what they're doing. Because I think that's when they have the ability to thrive the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you have a really good team around you, they want you to spend your time on the things that help the organization run more, not down in the weeds solving problems. And when that light bulb goes off, everything changes.
It does. And I was excited to have a chance to reformat our staff. Yeah. And as opposed to hiring what used to be the positions, we looked at what are opportunities, but also what were my strengths as a GM compared to what my predecessors were. And he liked a lot more of what else. I think he liked looking at numbers more. I think he liked evaluating. He liked stadium operations, which now he's a vice president of stadium operations, so it's a good fit. Yeah. And me, I'm more sales, marketing, experiences. So we built a staff that lets me thrive, and I think lets our entire company thrive. Because all of the people we hire around me, I expect a lot from them. Like, you're the expert, I'm not. Like, I don't want to tell you what to do. Come to me for guidance. Yeah. I'm an idea guy. Like, I can troubleshoot, I can problem solve. Yeah. But our company is better when I get to, go around with my hair on fire. It's all gone, so I like that. But when I can go out and do those things, our entire company thrives. And we've tried to build a staff to allow them to thrive and allow me to thrive.
Well, I think you nailed a couple of things that are absolutely critical, because we know that we're going to deal with employment challenges. There's a shortage of workers, and there's going to be for the next 10 years. And so by focusing on people first, you create an environment where people actually want to work there, rather than it being an environment where it's like, I've got to go to work.
Yeah, we feel blessed. I mean, this past year, you heard so many horror stories on staffing. Yeah. And we're very fortunate is that we work in an industry where people have fun. And I mean, our location in Springfield, Missouri, you have a passionate, rabid Cardinals fan base. Yeah. And I think people are excited to be there. And I think that's our full-time staff. I think that's our part-time staff. The early on, I mean, we about had 2 part-time positions, and that's because it's really late in the hiring season. We had a little turnover, but we were very fortunate. I think it comes back to having that culture and having that brand that people know and love and respect. We were very fortunate this summer compared to a lot of other companies.
That's awesome. Well, talk to us just a little bit. I mean, obviously what you do is seasonal. That's got to be challenging to get people to come back, because they might find another job. And how does that all work?
Yeah, we've got about 22 to 23 full-time staff, and so that's kind of the starting point. Yeah. And what I try to do is make sure that you look at every single level, our vice presidents, directors, managers, the account executives, community marketing coordinators, and we try to make sure every single level has a reason they believe their level is important. And so I think for us, it starts to make sure all of our full-time staff feels valued and important, because if they can't show it day in and day out, why do people who are seasonal want to show back up? But we actually have a large number of people that have been with the Springfield Cardinals for 18 years. Wow. I feel that some of the people that we've hired have been retirees and had to go to funerals of some of that seasonal staff, and it's sad. But it's also really neat to see the Cardinals family being there for them, and to see the people that they want to celebrate their life and they have Springfield Cardinals gear. Yeah. And I think that's a neat thing about what we do is we've created history. Yeah. Again, I went to high school at Springfield Catholic. We didn't have Springfield Cardinals to go to when I was in high school. Right. Now kids are growing up and that's all they know for our community. And that part feels really cool. But I just say a part of that with the staff is to make sure that we can keep that core full-time, because I think we can influence the culture of the part-time, but then on the part-time to be so thankful and respectful that they're there, that they want to come back.
Yeah, I love it. Being gracious and grateful that they're there every single day really is impactful. I know that from our own experiences. You said something that really hit home for me, that you have a lot of folks who are retired, and they probably don't have to work a lot of times, but they choose to because they get so much joy out of the Cardinals and the experience and coming in to the fans and the people that they're around. I think that's a really special atmosphere that you've been able to create there.
And it's awesome. I think it makes all of us better. I mean, we have Gen Z through boomers that are working at the Cardinals. Yeah. And I think for some of the people that are on the wiser end of the age spectrum, they're invigorated by being around the youth. And I think that those that are youthful, they get the opportunity to learn from people who have life experiences they just don't have. Yeah. But I think it all comes from making sure there's an atmosphere that you don't need to stand in the corner with only people your own age. Yeah. And I think it's helped keep me more youthful. I also think it's helped me be more respectful and understanding. And for me, I love reading about the generations, because I think we communicate different, we act different, we have priorities that are different. And instead of judging them, you learn how to respect them.
Yeah, I love that. You find the ways that we're the same instead of focusing on how we're different.
Yeah, and we're all passionate about Cardinals baseball, so we all know we got at least one thing.
Well, I think you hit it there. I mean, one of the things that I believe is important for any organization is to have a true north. Yeah. And yours is baseball and the love of the game and what how the season's going to turn out.
We've got two, and this is right away when I started. People ask me, well, what's going to be your core message? What's your core message about what you do? And mine is that we exist for two reasons. We exist to help the St. Louis Cardinals win their next world championship, and we exist to better this community. And what's amazing is that if it doesn't fall underneath one of those two categories, why are we spending the energy? And I think that for us, it really helps that when we talk about that internal, when I talk about it in the public, is for people to understand, we exist to help them win. Let's not get away from that. Yeah. And it doesn't mean we win, but it means we get the players ready. They're in a safe environment that respects baseball. Yeah. And then number two, how are we helping our community? And I think that's one of the neat things about minor league baseball, is that it's able to get into the fabric of all of the towns. And every year, we continue to push to start new community projects. And the one we did last year I thought was unbelievable. But it really comes back to, we're cheating. We don't have one North Star, we have two. So the North Stars.
Yeah, that's all good. Well, your community involvement has been a passion of yours since you were in high school. You started something in high school, is that right?
Yeah, in high school, I was very active, very involved. I was the guy making up posters to run for student council. And I always was drawn to the leadership stuff because it seemed an opportunity to influence things more than just going through the motions. When I was in college, me and four of my best friends, we started a designated driver program called Stripes. And then we started it at Mizzou. We saw a program similar at Texas A&M, and we're like, we're gonna do this. And it was my junior year, and it was completely student operated, and we went through a lot of headaches and a lot of heartaches to make it happen. But when we started, we took home about 130 kids every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. Wow. And it was something that, we would have people like, oh, we save lives. Like, no, we don't save lives, but we prevent loss. And I always thought that was cool. It'd be better if, just every college kid's responsible and knows their limits and always makes plans for transportation. But the reality it is, not everyone plans ahead. And so my junior and senior year, I spent a lot of times starting the Stripes program and then serving as the second director of it. And it still exists. It still exists at Mizzou. Over 20 years later, I think that's something that, besides family life is probably one of the things I'm the most proud of.
Yeah, well, you should be. I mean, you say you don't save lives, but I would maybe even argue with that a little bit, because I think you do. I mean, some people get behind the wheel and they shouldn't, and that preventing loss is a good way.
Preventing loss. That's what I was. Yeah, less morbid.
Yeah, less morbid. I like it. Well, and now for the entire staff, you guys are out in the community, you're doing things. You mentioned something that you did last year, your project. What was that?
Yeah, we partnered. We've always done a lot of little community relations things that people probably didn't realize. And we decided just to go big, which I know is going to really shock you with me and my personality. It's like, let's go big. But we took a lot of the programs we ran, and we partnered with the Springfield Public Schools and the Foundation for Springfield Public Schools to give 2 tickets to every kid in K through 5. But when we did it, we didn't want to, some teams give 1 ticket with the hopes people buy it, and that wasn't why we did it. We wanted to encourage family time. We want the kids to get the experience, create a memory with one of your parents, with one of your guardians. And when we did it, we didn't just hand them a voucher. We actually did it by creating school nights, so that each school had like 1 night, and the schools would set up tables, they would have drawings. The teachers, the principals got to meet parents who maybe they couldn't get involved. They were excited to come out to a game. And so for us and our entire staff, it was really amazing to watch, 34 schools come out and have a family night and to encourage it. It was amazing. And I think we're now looking at like, okay, this was cool. How can we show this to other teams in our league? How can we figure out how to grow it in our footprint? But it's something, as long as I'm with the Springfield Cardinals, we'll keep pressing on how can we be better for the community.
I love it. And the impact, the memories that you're making with families. I mean, that brings families closer together, and we know that that's a challenge for a lot of families, a lot of communities in today's world, where they just don't get that time because sometimes they can't afford it, or they just don't take the time, whatever it may be. And so,
well, and it's, I think, a willingness from kids. I can remember speaking, and it was actually in Ozark, so it's great that we're at the Finley. But I was at Ozark, and I asked a group of kids, like, how many of you guys would want to sit with your parents at the dinner table for 3 hours to play games? And they all kind of sit there, just looking around, no one's doing it. And then it's like, well, how many of you guys would go sit at a baseball game with your parents? And you started seeing the hands pop up, only halfway because they're junior high, they didn't want to raise all the way up. But you got to be cool. But you see the kids. I think it's neat that kids are willing to go if you're willing to take them. And hopefully we're doing our part to encourage that. We heard some great stories of parents who had never taken their kids to a game who then brought them back. We heard some stories. There was a dad who told us his daughter had some sensory problems, so he never would have taken her to a game, just afraid it'd be too much. And he called us to say, like, he was in tears. He's like, I now have something I can go do with my daughter I didn't know existed. And I think that's the neat part about that program, is hopefully it's encouraging family time after they come to the game.
Yeah, I love it. And I hear in your message that one of the focus areas really is give more than you receive and serve everyone.
Yeah, I believe in it. And I think that anyone who has the ability to give, help, serve, and you don't, it's a disservice to who you are. Our job titles aren't going to be on our gravestone, and so I think it's important to focus on what will be. That's why I already mentioned my family, and I want to be a good dad, I want to be a good husband, and then I want to be good at my job. And I think I know where my priorities are. I challenge other people to find theirs, not to say theirs are bad, but just know what they are. You already mentioned the North Star. Mine starts with my family, and I think when you know that, it helps you live on a day-to-day basis and what's important for you.
Yeah, I love it. So I want to tie that all the way back to something that you said early on, where you were drinking from the fire hydrant as it related to your job and being a little overwhelmed. There's a lot of people who get into those roles and they feel like there's a thing that's called the Imposter Syndrome, where it's like, I'm not worthy of this title, I'm not worthy of this job. But by having your heart, which I love, and your the stability of your family, is that what helped you kind of navigate through that imposter syndrome kind of stuff?
But yeah, when you're in sales, you fake it till you make it. And I think growing up in sales really helped me a lot there. But I'll say that 2 weeks that was secret was just so nostalgic, and it invigorated me to want to change, and it invigorated me to want to improve, and it kind of made me challenge myself on why did I need this job title to be this reinvigorated? And hopefully in the last 5 years, I haven't let off the gas pedal. Well, it's the point my wife's like, I would hate to work for you. Like, it's like, you just, but I think it's important that we can joke about that as a staff. And I've had some first staff tell me they like it when I'm busy, because then I don't have as much time to be like, hey, I got a new idea. But I think being there so long and having some amazing people I worked with alongside, I think they were happy for me, and they were there to help push me. My family was so supportive, and I have so many family memories at that stadium. I got engaged there. Oh, wow. We have 2 boys. Both of their gender reveal parties were at the stadium. Yeah. Our wedding rehearsal was there. There's just so many different family things that it means to me, and I think that wanting to bring that to everyone in this region was important. But you know, and I think the other part was I would take a deep breath and say one day at a time, and I would realize that what we would accomplish in 5 years, it started today, but I can't spend all my energy on 5 years to transition it. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of times that, as much as I like to be a planner, it was a gut check that I'm not in total control, and you got to take one day at a time.
Yeah, be present.
Right, you have to. I mean, and I'll call out 2 players that I've met because I think they're great people, and David Eckstein and Adam Wainwright. World Series champions, guys that have won multiple awards, have outstanding careers. But when I've met both of them, they talk to me and talk to everybody like they're the most important person in the room. And seeing guys like that have made it, that are successful, that have the money, prestige, when they're that good to others, what on earth am I doing trying to look around the room? And I think meeting people along the way, I feel like that's how I always learn. I think some people, they like to read, they like to hear the stories. I like to see, I like to watch, and I like to learn what's great leadership, what's poor leadership, and how can I turn it into my own way.
Yeah, I love it. And I mean, really what you're saying is be humble. I mean, stay humble, be present, and be in the moment. I love it all.
And maximize your controllables.
Yeah.
Controlling them is so boring.
It's good stuff. Well, speaking of controls, I think it's got to be a little bit of a challenge in dealing with an organization that's so big, and you know, I mean, there's so many moving parts that are going on between Major League Baseball, between the Cardinals themselves, the Springfield Cardinals, the compliance, the regulations and controls that are necessary. It's got to be tough. So how do you deal with the up and down, I'll call it politics, maybe it's not in the Cardinals, but what's that like?
Yeah, we were with some friends one time, and we were all joking around, we were laughing about know your role. And I think there's a part of that is like every situation you just mentioned, they're all different. And so I try to know my role in that situation. When I'm on the phone with the CFO of the St. Louis Cardinals, then I need to understand his role compared to my role. When I'm dealing with local stuff in the community, know that role and embrace it. I like microphones. I like talking to people, but I also know that there's situations where my role is to be the second, the third, and the fourth tier. And I think for me, I think that's important, is that whatever board you're on, whatever service group, whatever volunteer group, know your role. And even if you're normally a leader, there's other roles where you're meant to be the follower. And I think for me, that's a big part of it. But it's also, my wife gut checked me one time, and I was having a tough time, and I was coming home from work very frustrated and very upset. And finally she's like, then just quit. And it's like, wait, what? She's like, if you're this unhappy, why aren't you quitting? You either need to understand what you don't like and then choose to love it more, or you need to say, I can never be happy again, and leave. And it's a pretty simple statement, but it was a good gut check. It was a great advice, although she doesn't like it when I give her that advice. Now, it was her own advice. But I think there's a certain gut check, is that even if it's frustrating, if it's hard, if you love it enough, you need to realize that the positives outweigh the negatives. Yeah. And that was a great moment in my career to just, again, be reinvigorated and say, yes, even if something's bad, I love it. Because do I love working with legal? No, not my thing. Do I love accounting? Not really my thing either.
Yeah.
HR? Definitely not. But it doesn't mean that the people are great, and so you still respect them for the people. Maybe you don't like the topic, but I think that's to understand that's their role and understand it. Now get me in the sales, marketing, PR, community relations, let's roll, but sometimes that's just not my role.
Yeah, I love it. And I heard in how you describe that. Find what you don't like, find what you hate, but find a way to love it. And it sounds like it goes back to culture. You may not love the topic, but you love the people, and therefore you can work through the problems and overcome them if you focus on the right thing.
Yeah, and I think you said earlier too that a lot of times you have more in common with people than what you realize. And as opposed to looking for a reason why you disagree and don't like them, there's a lot more common ground. And I think on our staff, we try to understand that and respect it. And one thing that happened specifically, we were looking to make a pretty drastic change. We were discussing if we would eliminate season tickets to move to memberships. We'd done it for 13 years. We'd had some declining numbers, so we had to challenge what was going on. And we had about 8 leaders in the room, and we took a vote. And when I looked at the room, I kind of realized it's split 50-50 based on age. And it was right down the middle. The older half voted one way. Sorry, the age wiser half voted one way, and the younger group voted the other way. And we chose to go with the younger group because one of our goals was how to appeal to a younger audience. And it was a gut check. I was smack dab in the middle, so on the group, which was kind of funny. It was moderating, and my age was in the middle. But it was really good to say sometimes it's not about the position they have and the tenure they have. Sometimes it's about, does it align with your goals? And I think for all of us as a company, I think it got away from the person with the most seniority is right. The person with the highest job title is always right. And we can still have hard conversations. And if we have those hard conversations, we'll get to a way better end result. And we did. Our staff rallied behind that. And I think everyone in the room had hurt feelings because no one got what they want. But we're very proud of the product we created, and I think it was collaboration. And one of the things our community talks about collaboration over and over and over, and I don't think collaboration means consensus. It doesn't mean you all agree, but it means you're willing to have the tough conversations. And if someone's not bringing up a tough point, you probably need to expand that collaboration to figure out where are the pitfalls, because I think those pitfalls make you get a better end product.
Yeah, well, there's all kinds of wisdom that you just dropped in that thing that I want to circle back on. One was you listened to the younger people because they're more your target audience. You're trying to get more of them in. So you had to set aside and maybe hurt the feelings a little bit of some of the more wise individuals in the room.
Wiser ages.
Yeah, wiser ages. And I love that because I think that there is a time in all of our careers where we need that gut check to remind us that if we're going to stay in business, new ideas and innovation have to come into play. And that doesn't always come from the top down. That can come from anywhere in the organization. And you were humble enough and wise enough to pay attention to those details and follow that.
Yeah. Well, and I had a moment in time when that happened to me. It's growing up, the Cardinals, it's like I would leave the stadium and kids would ask me for my autograph because they thought I was a player. Then all of a sudden, enough weight and enough stress. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, are you a coach? It's like, yep, I'm done, no longer young. And so I think for me, like there was a moment where it was like I knew I wasn't on the young side. And I was okay with that. Because I think, and that's why I don't like saying old. And that's why when I say it, I want to correct myself is because there's wisdom. And I think when I was young, I didn't understand it. It was young and old. And now it's like, no, there's so much wisdom. And I love talking about generations because you can learn from all of them. And it's not that we wanted to move past the wiser generation, but we wanted to figure out how to bring in the younger one. And I think a lot of companies are struggling with, well, this is our current client base, and we got to keep them. And it's like, well, you also have to attract. I think for us, we see that with people we're hiring. We see it with clients. I mean, we see that on a day-to-day basis. But I don't want to run away from it. Is age and generations a factor? Yeah, it is. We have different priorities, but we can still respect them to understand what to do next.
Yeah. Well, and bringing people together to have those, what we describe in our organization as courageous conversations, the tough conversations. You have to be willing to have some conflict in order to solve real problems. And I love what you said about that because so many, even leaders, as you get promoted, I like to say that we as leaders or businesses that are growing quickly have a tendency to promote people to the level of incompetence. They get into these roles and I don't know I was good at this, but I don't know how to handle people problems. Like that's the whole thing. And that conflict that you force actually solves the problems and brings the truth out so that you can serve the community, serve your team, and get the best product as a result.
Well, I like the courageous conversation. That's good. But another way I describe a very similar thing, I would say it's talent versus tenure. And I think there's some companies that all they do is promote off of tenure. And I don't want to discredit it because like there's wisdom in tenure.
Sure.
But I also think you have to worry that if that's your company, your talented young people are going to leave. And I think that's where there's been boards I've served on where, when you leave, they only want your advice when they leave. But they ask, what do you think? And it's like, well, I would encourage us to try to get some younger people on the board because I think those are important voices to hear. I mean, that's your future. And if you don't play into that, your young talented people are going to leave. And I mentioned right away that was why we wanted to change our culture when I took over as GM, was that I want all of our young talented people to stay. I mean, I want them to push me. We've got we have a woman, her name is Regina, running our special events. And really, she doesn't need me, and it's awesome. She's done such a good job of the special events that she's blossomed to the point where we joke, because like, yeah, I don't even know what you book at the stadium, but way to go. But I think it's because she's young and talented, and I want her to know I feel that way about her. Hey, we respect you. We want you to do this. Because I think she's great, and other people could try to hire her, but hopefully she knows the respect that she has for me. And I don't just say I respect her, I'll let her have the run of the stadium, here you go, let's book it.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I love it. Well, one of the things that we try to promote is appreciation is the currency for motivation. And I think what you're talking about is really appreciating it, knowing your role, knowing their role, having enough respect and appreciating them so that they're excited about coming to work. And it's obvious that you create a sense of joy and enthusiasm around you. And so I think that I'm sure helps with your retention in the organization.
It does, but I'm also not perfect. And I'll say my wife mocks me on this one too. She says I get focus face, and I think I'm a very driven person. I like to get the end results. I want to go fast. And it's not thought out. It's just that I that's kind of my speed.
Driven.
And sometimes she's like, you just get this focus face, and he'll just stare at a camera right now. It's like you get focus face, and it's you forget to take the subtleties. You forget to ask a question instead of telling someone what to do.
Yeah.
That I'm so focused on the end result that I need to do a better job of making sure everyone's going with me and making sure that they have input maybe on the path that we get there.
Yeah.
And it's something that it's a weakness of mine. It can be a strength too, but it's something I need to be aware of as a leader, is that I need to make sure that focus is good, but sometimes that like blind focus can be very bad.
Well, I think focus face is better than resting bitch face. I think it's relatively good.
Yes, I got that going for me.
Well, I think one of the things that we all need as leaders in our lives is we have to have a truth teller. You have to have somebody who's willing to give you that gut check, and sometimes you get the focus face and your wife and you obviously collaborate well when it comes to those things, but having that truth teller in your life as a leader is a gift always.
Yeah. It's my wife's amazing, and everyone else just says she's tolerant. I just say amazing.
Yeah.
But we make a great team, and I think that's something. We got married, I felt like, later than a lot of our friends. We had kids a little bit later, but both of us just kind of took our path and our time to get there. But now we're a great team, and I'm proud of that. Like I said this a few times, but I want to be a good dad and a good husband, and that's my personal North Star that keeps me focused. Everything else is just how I get there. My favorite baseball this summer, it wasn't the Springfield Cardinals. It was coaching the Irish Hedgehogs, trying to teach a bunch of 6-year-olds baseball. But when we were doing it, I was trying to be upfront with the parents to say, hey, they're young. I want to try to teach them a little bit. It would have been nice to win a game. Hey, it wasn't in the cards. But I just wanted to make it such a fun environment that they want to come back, that they loved it enough that next year it's like, are we going to play baseball again? You got time. You can get older. I hate seeing parents that are, pushing a 7-year-old to, in a lot of ways, sports can teach you great things. They can be so good about teamwork, about having a purpose, being a good teammate. But it also, when it all costs, I mean, that's not a person you want to be friends with.
Right.
And I do think there's a group of parents out there that they need to be a gut check. They need a gut check on what example they're setting for their kids in sports. Me, like I said, we did not win a single game in our season this year. but our kids had fun. Then we had 3 rules, and I'm going to give you this. I still think they're great. But I say this to my sons whenever we go to school. We talk about it at sports. We talk about it at home life if they're getting in trouble.
Yeah.
But rule 1 is listen good. Rule 2 is try hard, and rule 3 is have fun. And it's pretty amazing how many things in life follow those 3 rules.
I love it.
Listen good, try hard, have fun.
Yeah, that's such good advice. I think you can bring that into anything, business, home life, whatever it is.
Well, and for example, it also, I think, makes it easier to scold someone without scolding them. You know, if you've got a group of kids they're all having fun and you're trying to teach them, instead of yelling, Andy, be quiet. Andy's my son, so I'll pick on him. But it's like, instead of yelling, Andy, be quiet, it's like, Andy, what's rule 1? Listen good, and it kind of reminds all of them to listen. Same thing. If he tries to play basketball and he's not hustling, it's like, Andy, what's rule 2? Try hard, and he kind of gets after it. But I came up with those rules before preschool, but we say them before school, before sports. Now I've got a 3.5-year-old that he knows the rules already. But those are some rules in our house that I want to live by too.
Yeah.
So.
And I think there's extra wisdom in that as we get into the workplace, because I think that there's a lot of leaders who listen to respond instead of listening to hear. And so to say listen good means listen to hear, listen to be intentional about what people are saying so that you can respect them, and then it turns into good things from there.
Well, I can tell you're doing that because I'm a storyteller. I like to talk and have fun, but I've been really impressed with the way you're interviewing, you're talking to me, is that you can tell every one of my answers has helped lead to the next part of the conversation.
Yeah.
I think that's a testament to you.
Yeah.
I also think it's a really good sales tool that more people should do it, is if you can listen, you understand the next questions to ask. If you're waiting to talk, you're waiting to respond, you don't get that.
You miss it.
And that's, I'll also go back to that awareness, know my faults. I told you, I love microphones. It's fun. I want to do these things. Sure. But I need to be aware of when to listen as opposed to talk.
Yeah.
When to offer someone else the chance to lead and to do this. I like it, but it doesn't mean other people don't want the chance to do it too.
Yeah, I think there's wisdom in that as well, because Simon Sinek says that if you're the senior leader in the room, you should always be the last to talk. And it sounds like even when you guys were collaborating about the product of the members versus the season tickets, that you weren't throwing your opinion and pushing your opinion on everybody. You really allowed everybody to come together and do that. And so I think that's.
But it's hard for me. It is hard for me. It's a Wedding Crashers, and I'm an idea man. I thrive on enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we try to talk about that, I'm excited because I care about the project, but I have to work on that. And I know that's something. Hopefully, I've improved. I keep improving. I want to keep improving. But I think it's a good skill that as you serve on community boards is to. I used to feel that I need to be the first to speak, that I need to offer the big input. But now it's like, well, let's wait, and maybe someone else will get there and I don't need to talk. Or let's wait, and now maybe I'll have 2 points to make instead of 1. Yeah. But it takes work, and it goes against my nature as a talker. Yeah. But I also know it's an opportunity for me to improve.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, if we take a step back and look at the stadium operations itself, you have to have sales goals, you have to have attendance. You talked about how you had some numbers falling off. Talk to us about how that dynamic works in the community. Obviously, you're not going into the community just to sell tickets because you want to serve the community and make a difference, but you have to get out there. You have to remind people to slow down in their lives and spend the time at the ball field. That's got to be tough.
It's very tough, but it's very satisfying. And I think it starts with staff and to hire a passionate staff. Our vice president of stadium operations, he knows more about the stadium than I ever will. I don't need to be as good as him. Our senior director of ticket technology, she knows so much more about how to run. I have no idea how to run the ticket system. Not more. I have no idea. But they're experts, and I think when I can listen to those experts, it helps us do it. But also you have to break it down, and I think for us, when you look at our days of the week that we have at the Cardinals games, I think it tells a really good story. We have Tuesdays. It's Great Southern Bank $2 Tuesday, $2 hot dogs, $2 brats. Games that start at 6:35 instead of later. Well, let's break down why. Because now kids can get home earlier than a 7:05 start. People that are working in our membership, they can get home earlier. There's a value night, so that maybe some people, they can't afford to go on a more expensive night. They have a value option for food. So we tried to hit that market. Wednesdays, they're bad in this area. I mean, and we could put a lot of energy into trying to make Wednesdays great. I just don't think it's going to happen. There's so many people that go to church. I think there's so many businesses who maybe they don't, but they respect their employees that do. Yeah. So Wednesday, we came up with Wolf Wednesday. It's kind of like, you know what? There's a lot of people, they got fur babies, and we're going to let them bring their fur babies in. So we're trying to hit that market. Then we have Thirsty Thursdays. And some people, they just want a cheaper drink. And if you can do that, then that's going to attract a different kind of crowd than your Tuesday, your Wednesday, your Thursday. Friday, it's always going to have fireworks. And for people who want to have that extra experience, that extra moment, you always have an experience on Friday nights. Saturday, to be honest, that's our cash cow. I mean, that's the day of the week that we need to hit big. You're going to see bobbleheads, you're going to see shirt giveaways, you're going to see groups flocking because it's good for them to not go during the work week. It's an important one. And in a lot of ways, like, I don't want a discount. Like, that's the one we need. We need that financials. And then Sundays is for kids. You know, Highland Dairy gives them free ice cream before a game, and most 529 lets them run the bases after. And I tell you all that not to promote the Cardinals, but more that we have a purpose for what we do. And we can't just do all the things you said, but what we can do is we can try to segment it enough to try to let our little successes add up to big successes. And I think we take in the feedback from everything we do with stadium, buying behavior, technology. We take in the feedback, and then we have to figure out how to get the little segments, and then hopefully the little segments can add up.
Yeah, such good advice. So you're literally analyzing the data, understanding your customer, you're putting all of those together, and then you're hitting on the triggers to get people to spend the time and the money in order to do it, because you know your audience so well.
And the data is huge. And when we started doing more surveys, it was great, because as opposed to letting a vocal minority guide where you're going, you could back it up. And when we moved from season tickets to memberships, we analyzed the surveys, and we figured out what are the most important things and what are the least important things. And we put all of our energy into the big ones and let the little ones go away. And I think we've started doing that better with ticket sales, with marketing, with promotions, with how we spend our giveaway dollars. But it starts with the data.
Yeah, I love it. Know the truth. Yeah, it works out really well. Well, Dan, thanks for everything. As we wrap up, I want to ask you, what's some of the best advice that you've ever received in your life?
The best advice I've ever received in my life, you know, my dad has given me pearls of wisdom, and there's so many little things that he says. But one of the ones that resonated with me really young was when he said, it's a song quote, "If you can't please everyone, then you got to please yourself." And to me, the first part of that is what's important, is that as much as I love people, I think it's to understand you can't please everyone. And I don't think that it's to please myself, but I think it's more like, can I be content? Do I sleep well? And I think that that's a good deep breath to say that I'm not going to make everyone happy, but at the end of the day, like, I'm going to sleep well because I know I tried hard. So I'll give credit to my dad has given me, when I was young, I didn't realize it. But the more years of wisdom I get, I love what my parents taught me. I love the values they gave me. And I think the little gems of wisdom along the way have hopefully made me a better person.
No doubt about that. Well, congratulations. I'll raise my glass to you and say congrats for owning your journey.
I appreciate it. Cheers. Thank you for having me, Tom.
Yeah.